To join this ancient Greek religious order, you first had to die. Not literally, but close enough that nobody who went through it ever fully explained what happened inside. For nearly 2,000 years, thousands of people walked into a dark chamber in Eleusis, Greece, believing they would emerge transformed. And every single one of them kept the secret. Not most. Everyone. You'd expect at least one person to talk. A drunk confession. A deathbed slip. A bitter ex-member with a grudge. Across 2 millennia, involving emperors, philosophers, and ordinary citizens, historians have found no confirmed detailed account of what actually happened inside. That should stop you cold. What kind of experience makes that many people, across that many centuries, choose silence? This was the Eleusinian Mysteries, one of the most important religious rites in ancient Greece, held annually near Athens for over 1,000 years. Historians studying Greek religion describe it as centered on the myth of Persephone, dragged into the underworld by Hades, and her mother Demeter's desperate search to bring her back. Initiates weren't just told this story, they were made to live through a version of it. According to ancient sources and modern scholars studying the rite, participants underwent days of purification, fasting, and ritual preparation before the central night arrived. Then, they were led into complete darkness, inside an enclosed hall called the Telesterion, built specifically without windows so that not even the faintest trace of outside light could enter. Picture that. You've fasted for days, you're disoriented, and you're plunged into absolute blackness with no idea what's coming next. Scholars believe participants experienced something meant to feel like death itself. A journey into darkness representing Persephone's descent into the underworld. Some historians studying accounts from figures like Plutarch describe the experience as involving genuine terror, confusion, and dread, deliberately induced, before any relief or revelation arrived. Then, according to descriptions passed down indirectly, brilliant light broke into the chamber. Sacred objects were revealed, and initiates were told they had witnessed something that fundamentally changed their understanding of death itself. Here's the part that should genuinely unsettle you. We don't actually know what those sacred objects were. We don't know exactly what was said. The specifics of the revelation, the actual content of the mystery, were protected by something called the Eleusinian Oath of Secrecy, and violating it wasn't just frowned upon. Under Athenian law, revealing the mysteries was punishable by death. Even famous ancient writers who almost certainly witnessed the rite themselves refused to describe it in detail. Historians note that authors from this period who casually discussed nearly everything else about Greek religion went completely silent on this one specific topic out of genuine fear of the consequences. The philosopher Cicero, who was himself initiated, later wrote that Athens had given nothing to the world more excellent or divine than the mysteries, praising how they had civilized humanity and taught people to live with joy and die with better hope. Yet even he, willing to praise the experience in the highest possible terms, never once described what actually happened inside that hole. Think about how rare that kind of silence is. Ancient writers gossiped about political scandals, mocked rival philosophers, and recorded intimate details about religious practices considered far more sacred than most modern institutions. But on this one subject, for centuries, the silence held completely. What we do know comes only from indirect fragments, brief mentions, descriptions of the emotional aftermath, rather than the actual content. Those who completed the rite consistently described a profound shift in how they viewed death, often reporting they no longer feared it the way they once had. Whatever happened in that chamber apparently worked. It changed people enough that keeping the secret felt more important than fame, money, or personal relationships for 2,000 years straight. Consider what that actually required. Emperors who ruled the known world sat through the same ritual as ordinary farmers, all bound by the same silence, all apparently deciding that whatever they experienced deserved more protection than their own legacy. No emperor ever used his power to force the secret out into the open. No philosopher ever slipped it into a private letter that later surfaced. The silence wasn't enforced from outside. It was chosen, repeatedly, by people who had every incentive and opportunity to break it. So the next time you assume every ancient secret eventually gets exposed, remember Eleusis. Sometimes the experience itself becomes the reason for the silence. Not fear of punishment alone, but something closer to reverence. Protecting a transformation too significant to hand over in words. You joined by dying, symbolically, in total darkness. And whatever you saw when the light returned, you carried it to your own real death, centuries of initiates, and never once let it go.